Hi, if eating less worked for you in your 20s and 30s to lose weight, but now you're over 40 and you feel like your body is betraying you because the harder you worked, the worse your body responds, you are not alone and this video is for you. But before we start, I want to make sure you know it's not about willpower and it's not a caloric equation. It's not what we're always told. Eat less, exercise more. That will not work in midlife. Hi, I'm Cindy Lockhart, a functional nutritionist specializing in midlife women's metabolic and hormone health. I work with women every day who are dealing with this very same scenario, what we call weight loss resistance, or the second freshman 15, because it feels like sometimes we just wake up one day and say, where did that weight come from? And where does it sit? Right in that midsection, right? So we are going to talk about what is happening. So today I'm going to share 4 top reasons why eating less stops working after the age of 40 and what you can do about it. We've got to have a solution. But first we have to understand why. So number 1 is our metabolism becomes less flexible in midlife. And there's a lot of reasons why. One is our estrogen levels start to decline later in perimenopause and into menopause. And without this estrogen, our metabolism also drops. In fact, up to 300 calories a day worth. So that means if we continue eating the same amount of food, we are going to gain weight. So even though we're doing what we used to do, now we're gaining. That's one reason. Another is we're losing our lean muscle mass. And we're going to talk about that as one of the other 2 factors. We're also less insulin sensitive. We're more insulin resistant. We're going to talk about that in a moment too. We have higher cortisol levels. That's another reason. We become less stress resilient in midlife. That's another reason we're going to talk about. So I'm going to dive into those in more detail in just a moment. But with that less stress resilience, we need more recovery. And it might need to be a longer recovery. So we're not rising to the occasion in being able to recover as quickly as we were when we were younger. And what does that recovery entail? We need nourishment to help us recover. So number 2, eating less is a stressor, especially in midlife. So if we're really cutting our calories down, we're closing that window of feeding and we're extending that window of fasting, we are going to create a stress response, or we're over exercising. All of those things play together. And when we create a stressful event, what happens? Our cortisol goes up. So that's our primary stress hormone, which is going to trigger a fight or flight response, which means our blood sugar goes up, because that blood sugar's job is to get into the cells so that we're prepared to fight or flight. But most of these stressors, including eating less, what do we have to fight off? What do we need to flee from? We don't. So we're not using that blood sugar. Our insulin is not driving that blood sugar into the cells. So insulin starts to build up in our blood and our cells are locking and preventing that insulin from getting in. So now we're more insulin resistant and we're going to notice more sugar cravings. So what does this all mean? So with that stressor, that higher cortisol, higher blood sugar, higher insulin, we have a lower metabolism, because when your body is constantly in fight or flight, in this case, eating too little, exercising too much, we are working really hard to conserve our energy because we need that energy. We need that nourishment. We're also breaking down our muscle because cortisol is a catabolic hormone, meaning it's going to break down our muscle. It's going to break down our bones. It's going to break down our immunity. In the case of muscle, we're going to talk about that next. And we're going to increase our fat stores, especially in that midsection. So why do we go from a nice hourglass shape in premenopause to a shot glass shape in midlife? It's because of this cortisol and insulin. We have 4 times the receptors for cortisol in our midsection: under eating, stress, cortisol, less stress resilient. We're more insulin resistant. So we're going to store that fat, because insulin is a fat storage hormone if it's not driving that glucose into your cells. And we're going to see more of that fat gain in the midsection, which, by the way, that fat gain in the midsection, there's a whole nother enzyme that is converting our testosterone to estrogen in that case. Number 3, muscle loss. So we are, which seems so unfair, in perimenopause, which can start as early as our 30s, but for sure in our 40s, we tend to be right in there. We are losing a half a pound of lean muscle and we're gaining a pound of fat every year. So we have to do something about it. What do we have to do? We need to strength train. That is the only way we can do it, but we also need to provide proper nourishment, which in this case is protein. Number 4 is blood sugar instability. If we're skipping meals, we're under eating, we're significantly reducing our carbohydrate intake, we're closing that window of feeding and extending that fasting window, we're not getting enough protein, we're over exercising, we're going to feel the symptoms of that blood sugar instability or roller coaster effect. And what happens is we feel irritable or hangry in between meals. We're craving sugars and carbohydrates. We feel fatigued after we're eating. In fact, we might feel like we need to take a nap an hour and a half after we eat. We're brain foggy. And we have that wonderful 2 to 3 a.m. wake up call where boom, we're awake and we feel like, all right, I could get up and start my day. But that's because blood sugar drops at that point. So this is that blood sugar roller coaster. So those are the 4 reasons why you are more weight loss resistant in midlife. Metabolically less flexible. You're eating less is a stressor. Muscle loss, which is your metabolic engine, and your blood sugar is unstable. So what do? Number 1 is we need to nourish our body. So make sure you are not eating in too small of a window. I would say make sure your window of eating is 12 hours, 10 the least. So like if you're fasting 12 to 14 hours, I wouldn't do any more than that in midlife. Okay. And then make sure that you are getting your blood sugar stabilizers, which is your protein, your fiber, and your healthy fats. Protein, number 1. And even enter your meals eating your protein first. So for women in midlife, probably 25, 35 grams at each meal, which your meal should be about 4 or 5 hours apart, and eat 3 of them so you can get all of your nutrients in. So start with protein because that's your most blood sugar stabilizing. Then you can go to fiber and like your vegetables, your legumes, your seeds. Then you can do your healthy fats like avocado, extra virgin olive oil, nut seeds, olives. And then you can finish, if you're still hungry, with the carbohydrates, like your starchy vegetables, your whole grains that only have 1 ingredient. We need to build our stress resilience. We can't get rid of stress. Stress is imminent. It's always there and it always will be there. We're just less resilient, meaning a small stressor is going to put us over the edge. We're going to feel like we have to jump off the cliff. We just don't tolerate those things as well. So what do we need to do? We need more self-care time. We need more white space. We need more boundaries. And it is A-OK to create those. We also need to put a stress resiliency practice into our day, whether that is meditation, deep breathing, journaling, prayer. Find something that allows you just to take a little bit of calm and to train your mind so that you become more resilient. Strength train. As women, what are we geared towards? We're geared towards cardio, and long cardio. That can be more of a stressor on our bodies in midlife. We have got to prioritize strength training, pushing heavy weights. Now, if you're new, you got to start low. So don't jump right in. Start low. Make sure your posture is correct. Your form is correct. You feel okay with it, and slowly increase that load so that you are building that muscle back in and also loading the bone. No less than 2 times a week, ideally 3 times a week, to truly build that lean mass that we're losing naturally as we age. And this is a full body, so you want to hit all of the major muscle groups. Work with a professional if you're unsure where to start. And then food timing. So I talked a little bit about the window of eating versus window of fasting, but because we're less stress resilient, we really need that breakfast. Breakfast is so important, and you want to have it within an hour of waking. ideally. Again, start with your protein, then your fiber, then your healthy fats. What do we do as women when we are weight loss resistant in midlife? We're so frustrated that we start skimping and skipping meals, and maybe that window doesn't start until 11, 12, or 1. Because if we eat earlier in the day, what happens? I'm hungry all day. Well, guess what? That's supposed to happen because you actually did jumpstart your metabolism. Your metabolism is much greater in that first half of a circadian day compared to the last half. So we need to start with breakfast and then have 3 meals a day every 4 to 5 hours and really try to close that kitchen by 6 or 7 because nothing happens good after that. Because your metabolism is much weaker later in the day, you're also going to be more insulin resistant later in the day. We're more sensitive midday for that. So that's where we can tolerate our carbs. So if this video resonates with you, please drop a comment below. Let me know what your experience has been. Let me know what you tried based off of this video and how it works for you, because every one of us is different and unique. So we have to remember that it's all about experimentation and trial. Find what works for you. And if you have other ideas for videos you'd like to hear and learn about, drop that into the comments or message me as well. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.